People were naturally vaccinated by having the illness when they were young, and they would have a lifetime immunity. Then we started giving them a vaccine that caused them to now have a booster for the rest of their life. And if they don't, they could actually have a much worse malady as an older person that gets shingles.
Your organization has achieved a significant dent in vaccine mandates.
We didn't do the science. We didn't do the clinical trials. We didn't do the post safety. But one thing we know it's rare.
Well, hello, I am Emily Cameron, and I am here at the Republican Party of Texas State Convention. I'm the political director for Texans for Vaccine Choice, and I have with me here Representative Hopper. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. Hopper.
Well, Emily, thank you for letting me be your very first guest. I'm the state representative for Wise County and a little bit of Denton County, which is up in North Texas. And this is my first term. And we have had a great session, I think, fighting for medical liberty. I think it's been huge that we have so many patriots that all got in one session. A lot of folks got involved in politics because they saw the tyranny that happened during COVID. And I think that as a result, I think a lot of folks were pushing for some of the reforms and some of the changes that we need to make sure that our liberty is protected. So that's who I am. We actually got involved, like I say, in 2020. We actually started Wise County Conservatives, which is a political group in Wise County. And my wife was a precinct chair. She is my son Sam, who's sitting right behind us, is actually the vice chair of the Wise County Republican Party. So that's a little bit about me and my family. So we have 3 boys, and my oldest son Grant just got married to a homeschool girl in Wise County, and we have a unvaxxed little granddaughter, which is amazing. It's funny, like a lot of the decisions that folks at that age group are making are so wise, but like we didn't have the option or the knowledge to sit there and know a lot of the ways that a lot of this medicines stuff that were been administered are hurting us. And so it's kind of cool to see that like Gen Z is actually making good decisions based upon what they've seen over the last 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. It has definitely become a major hot topic, especially since 2020.
Yes.
So, okay, well, let's jump in. I've got a few questions for you.
Sure.
What first made medical liberty an issue you felt personally called to fight for?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, we saw what kind of tyranny the government was willing to exact upon regular people during 2020. And I honestly was not the person who was sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to avoid getting a tetanus shot. I just didn't know. But of course, the vaccine schedule wasn't the same when we were kids either. But once I saw that, they were willing to experiment on regular people with mRNA shots. And my wife and I and our whole family was like, we're not touching that with a 10-foot pole. And then when they started to push it upon us, either through our business or through every single avenue of life, I think that, that's what got us red-pilled on the entire issue.
Why do you believe vaccine choice matters in Texas?
I think it matters because we're not done. We have not. I had a bill last session to amend the Texas Constitution to affirm, the natural right of people to refuse vaccination through any avenue, whether it's education or whether it's government service or whether it's private employment, any of that. So to me, it's like we're not done until we have that codified right in our, Bill of Rights that, hey, like you cannot be forced to take a vaccine for any reason, shape, or form. So I think we've made some real good progress, though. And I think we're in a better spot than we were a few years ago, but there's lots left to do.
There's still lots of work left to do on this issue. Yeah. Absolutely. So as you know, we've seen major wins, like we just talked about the last few legislative sessions. Why is it important for conservatives to stay engaged in this fight?
I think it's important because, like I said, the fight's not over. I mean, we have, Shelley Luther's bill that made sure that if you're a vaccine manufacturer and you advertise that you should be held liable for anything that happens. I mean, the reality is that you are a vaccine manufacturer and you are essentially not liable for any of the damages that are caused to people based upon the. I mean, think about any other form of life where you're an auto mechanic and the engine blows up and you're not liable, or you're a person that's working on your home and it collapses and you're not. I mean, that's ludicrous, but that's what we've done with vaccine manufacturers. We've created an unlevel playing field where, there is no financial incentive for folks that are basically using regular people as an avenue of experimentation. There's no reason for them to actually be responsible. So anyways, that's 40, 50 years of bad policy that's been, administered either through the federal side or whether it's through states. And I think we have a lot of, especially being in Texas, we have a lot of ability to push back on that. And that's like incumbent upon us as state legislators to make sure that like we regain the rights of regular people in this area. So there's so much more to do. That's why we're still in the fight.
Awesome. What have you learned from meeting families impacted by vaccine mandates or medical discrimination?
Well, honestly, even before I was elected, like while I was running for office, I ran into tons of people whose family had been affected adversely, whether kids that were vaccine injured, whether they were had kids that were in nursing school that were being forced to take a vaccine. Like this is not a faraway problem. It's like you don't have to turn over very many rocks to realize that people have been negatively impacted and they're your neighbor, they're your family members. They're folks that, many people that I am friends with that are in, federal military that were essentially drummed out of the service or were forced into difficult situations where they had to lie about their vaccine status in order to continue defending their country. So, these are again, not far away problems. It's anyone who's running for office in today's day and age that thinks that this is not a problem that is close to home. It totally is.
Absolutely. So why should vaccine choice remain a priority in the state Republican Party of Texas?
It should remain a priority because you don't have to have a tinfoil hat to realize this is one of the avenues that, like, I think the government, the globalist agenda is going to use to control people. And again, to experiment on people and if you're really, really, like I say, subject to conspiracy theories, which I kind of subscribe to the idea, there's money to be made in injured people. And so there's no incentive for them to actually solve a lot of medical maladies. But there is an incentive to make sure that people are stuck on some sort of schedule where they have to continue. Chickenpox is a great example. I'm not an expert, but I'm telling you, like, based upon my reading, we didn't need a chickenpox vaccine.
Right.
People were naturally vaccinated by having the illness when they were young, and they would have a lifetime immunity. Then we started giving them a vaccine that caused them to now have a booster for the rest of their life. And if they don't, they could actually have a much worse malady as an older person that gets shingles. That's like an example of like a unintended consequence that's through an administration of something that was not well thought out. And I think a lot of people just have a lot of faith in the system. And I think a lot of us have lost a lot of faith in that system.
Yeah, we're seeing that more and more, just everyone losing faith in this thing that we were supposed to have, be able to trust, especially as parents and young parents in particular.
Right on.
So what is your message to the TFVC grassroots army?
I just say be encouraged. I mean, I don't, looking at this from the outside, just being an activist that was like watching the state legislature and then seeing it this past session. I mean, you have so many more allies that are willing to go to war on this issue. And the issue is transformed from one that is just like some sort of fringe issue that only weirdos talk about to now like, hey, listen, there's too many people that are red-pilled that are willing to fight the battle on this. And the people who are willing to marginalize us are now becoming the minority, which I think is where we need to be. So I would just say, just keep in the fight, be encouraged, and know that there's a lot of liberty-minded legislators, a lot of liberty-minded folks in Washington that are now like fully understanding that, hey, this is an issue that we can't ignore any longer. We have, for generations, advanced this agenda of people who want to be able to experiment on people. And now people are like, hey, listen, there's no way we should be able to continue with the idea that, again, you could be a medical manufacturer and be indemnified for all of the consequences of everything that you're doing to people. So I think that the Overton window has moved. And I think that over the next couple legislative sessions, we're going to actually see real progress on this, even beyond what we saw last year.
Finish this sentence. Medical liberty means.
Medical liberty means that you can't be held hostage by your unwillingness to change your body or change some aspect of the way that God designed you in order to accommodate what society demands. So you can't be stuck at home because you're not willing to make some modification that changes the way that God designed you. God designed us with immune systems. If you want to operate in human life, you shouldn't be required to have an injection, to have some sort of body modification, to, again, the dystopian view, which I think we're heading towards. I think everybody knows we're heading towards is like, at some point, you're going to be implanted with some chip, right? That's where they're trying to move us. The fight for medical liberty is like changing the trajectory of all that back to the point where it's like, hey, look, God designed us. God designed human civilization to be able to thrive and succeed without having to have medical science change the way the humans work, right? So I think that's a long explanation of where I think that, we need to fight for our own personal decision making and our family and parents to be able to decide, not the medical profession deciding for us.
Absolutely. Well, it was so nice to have you around today, and I look forward to seeing you out and about during the
Emily,
convention.
thank you so much. It's been fun. Thanks for having me as your first guest. See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Shot Callers podcast. Please, if you found value in this content, rate us and share the podcast with a friend. It's a great way to get the message out and to empower everyone to make informed decisions. Until next time, never forget, we are the Shot Callers.